IHCC, again, the main thing is the pathology, right? So if you understand the pathology, you will understand what IHCC does. So this is the classic description, right? I mean, all of you should be knowing it. But basically, it's a heterogeneous mass generally, right? It will also have peripheral arterial enhancement like METs, like hemangioma. It will have delayed centripetal enhancement. Okay, so filling in will be there. So again, that will be similar to hemangioma, but the peripheral enhancement is never nodular and discontinuous, right? Okay. There can be capsular retraction, there can be biliary dilatation, and satellite nodules may be seen. So all of these have a pathologic correlate, right? So what is the pathology of IHCC? It arises from intrahepatic bile ducts, right? So there are three types of cholangios, right? There is the intrahepatic cholangio, there's the Klatskin or the perihilar, and there's a distal cholangio, which is along the CBD. Okay, what is Klatskin? Anything involving the right hepatic duct, left hepatic duct, common hepatic duct, right? Till the cystic duct insertion into the CBD. So all of that is Klatskin. Okay. Anything proximal to that will be your intrahepatic cholangio. Okay. Right. So these arise from intrahepatic bile ducts. So they may have biliary dilation. How often will they have biliary dilation? Anyone? Most of the time, will they have it or not have it? So they will generally not have it. Okay, so I think 20 to 30% of the times you will see biliary dilation. Rest of the time they will not have it. Right. So generally, what is the pathology? It's a very sclerosing tumor or fibrous tumor. Okay, a lot of fibrous stroma is there, which is at the center of the tumor, and the periphery is what is viable. So generally, this this red sort of pink sort of color, that's the viable tumor. Okay, and all this center is all fibrous stroma. Right, and we all know fibrosis enhances on delayed, right? So that's why you see the centripetal filling in on the delayed scan. Okay, what will enhance on the arterial? The cellular tumor, right? So whatever is active, it's replicating fast. That is what will enhance on the arterial phase, right? So the periphery will enhance on the arterial, and then the fibrous stroma will enhance on the delayed. So that is why you see this pattern: peripheral arterial enhancement and delayed filling in. Okay, you may not always see the peripheral arterial enhancement, right? It depends on the stage of the tumor. I mean, how aggressive it is, how much cellular it is. Then the filling in is often seen, okay, especially for the smaller tumors. Once it's very large, then there will be areas of necrosis and other things. So then the rules sort of are not always followed. Okay. Yeah, so that is why you see this peripheral enhancement, right? So this is the arterial phase, late arterial phase, and you see this peripheral enhancement, right? And then you do a delayed and you see this filling in. You can see the filling in? It's projecting, right? Yeah. Right, so that's filling in. And what happens to the periphery? It sort of washes out, right? So you see the peripheral washout? So it's called peripheral washout sign. So that just indicates that the periphery of whatever this lesion is cellular. It is enhancing and then washing out. So peripheral washout side is supposed to be a very classic sign for a malignancy. Okay, it can be a cholangio, it can be adenocarcinoma metastasis. So once you see this sign, almost always an adenocarcinoma. Okay, it may not be always a primary intrahepatic cholangio, which is an intrahepatic adenocarcinoma. It can be a colorectal, which is also an adenocarcinoma, which is metastasized, right? So it is supposed to be very classic for an adenosine. Okay, so if you see this and you do not see any tumor in the rest of the body, you don't see a gastric mass or a pancreatic mass or a colorectal mass, then this is likely going to be a IHCC, right? Okay, so this is the delayed filling in. Okay, because of the fibrosis, again, there can be capsular retraction. This is often seen, especially in the larger tumors. Okay, and you can see the satellite as well, right? I think, yeah. So there's a satellite nodule often present. That's because it has a tendency to invade small portal vessels. Okay, what that means is you can also see tumor thrombus, right? If a tumor is invading vessels, if it has a tendency to invade vessels, it can cause tumor thrombus. So in HCC, in liver malignancies, generally when we see tumor thrombus, we think of HCC. But actually even IHCC can invade and cause tumor thrombus, which is why the LIRADS just says LRTIV. If you know the LIRADS criteria, we'll discuss it next time. But it doesn't say the TIV and HCC, it just says TIV, tumor in vein. Because even an IHCC can do that, okay? Okay, because of the tendency to invade the small portal vessels, it can metastasize intrahepatically very fast. Okay, so often you will see multiple intrahepatic lesions. Okay, and this is also IHCC. It can be, of course, metastatic tumor from elsewhere, but IHCC can do that. Right, and yeah, so the tumor thrombus is something we can see. All right. And again, because of the portal vessel involvement, you can get atrophy, right? Because if the vessel is thrombosed, then that portion of the liver will not get a lot of blood supply. So the rest of the lobe will also atrophy. So it can cause lobar atrophy. Alright, so these are the imaging features of cholangio, and if you understand the pathology, they are very straightforward. You can predict all of them. Okay. And MRI again will have similar features, apart from the same thing, the enhancement pattern, etc. Because again the periphery is viable, you can get a target appearance. So target appearance on diffusion, viable periphery which is restricting the center is fibrosis, not restricting. It's supposed to be more classic for cholangio than HCC. So if you say target appearance, even in the cirrhotic liver, we think of cholangio. So targetoid morphology is something which is supposed to be classic for cholangio. Okay. On the delayed hepatobiliary phase, if you take that phase, there can be some sort of, they say cloud-like central hyperintensity. Basically, the contrast diffuses into the fibrous stroma. So that can happen. So this is also a target sign. Like the center is bright and the periphery is a little dark, right, on the hepatobiliary phase. It's a very uncommon thing. We generally don't do this phase. So unlikely that you'll see it, but this is described. So target morphology includes diffusion, it includes hepatobiliary phase. And again, if you think about it, the peripheral enhancement, this is also a target sign, right? So even on the arterial, it's a targetoid morphology. So the targetoid morphology is seen on various different sequences. Okay, so that's about cholangio, right? So one thing you have to remember on cholangio is that it can present as a single mass, with satellites, or at multiple masses, right? So this one has multiple. So you'll often see these scans. They'll come to you. Whenever you see these scans, you have to look at the biopsy. Okay. Now in cholangio, the main issue with biopsy is no pathologist can tell you that it's cholangio. Okay. The pathology will be adenocarcinoma. Okay. If you tell the pathologist that this biopsy is a liver biopsy from a patient with a gastric mass, they'll say this is gastric cancer. If you tell the pathologist this is a pancreatic mass, they'll say it's a pancreatic metastasis. So they cannot differentiate gastric, pancreatic, intrahepatic cholangio, Klatskin's, upper GI, in a sense, your colorectal. Colorectal still sometimes they can, because there are certain tumor markers called CK17, CK20. So that way, distal GI might have a different CK presentation. But the proximal GI, so the small bowel, stomach, liver, pancreas, all of these will have the same appearance in pathology. So when we say malignancy and we look at a biopsy report which says adenocarcinoma, okay, likely upper GI or hepatobiliary, then it's up to us. If we don't see a pancreatic mass, if you don't see a gallbladder mass, so gallbladder again will look the same. So gallbladder, if we don't see pancreas, we don't see, if there's a scopy which says that stomach is normal, then this is intrahepatic cholangio. Okay. So you have to look at all these findings and then give your report. So if the patient already has a scopy and has this biopsy report and it comes to us for a second opinion, then we can say that, liver is pancreas is normal, gallbladder is normal, because the upper GI scope is also normal and this is adenocarcinoma. This is going to be intrahepatic cholangio. If you have CA19 and even better, right, even if you don't have it, it's fine. Okay, CA19 is high again, then the differentials decrease further, right? So then it is either GB, pancreas, or intrahepatic, right, or cholangio. So again, then GB pancreas you can rule out, right? So then, alright, so everyone understood cholangio, okay? A lot of it, this is like non-radiology, right? I mean, you must know the patient's history and other lab parameters. Then you can say it's a cholangio instead of saying unknown primary or indeterminate malignant looking lesion. Okay. Alright, so now we come to HCC. So HCC, as I said, we'll discuss more in the talks on approach to cirrhotic liver. But the thing is, 20% of it can be non-cirrhotic livers. Usually, there'll be other etiologies, like most commonly is NASH, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? So that's a common etiology. Sometimes the liver will not appear cirrhotic, but actually there's HBV positive. So technically, it's sort of hepatitis positive patient. Okay, AFP is not a gold standard. So AFP can be high. If it is high, then you know it's HCC. If AFP is normal, it doesn't mean it's not HCC. Okay. So same, this is true for every tumor marker, right? CA19 high, you know it's one of these pancreatic or biliary things. If CA99 is normal, again you cannot say that it's not that, right? So HCC generally in non-cirrhotics, what I have seen is usually large, like big mass. Okay, like cirrhosis you can see over multifocal. Here it's more commonly large, but it can be multiple also. Okay, and they are a little more aggressive here. Okay, right, but one thing you must know is fibrolamellar HCC. So we have this case of the week on the Tata Facebook page. And so I put a case like 56, 60-year-old guy with a liver mass, and it looked like a cirrhotic liver. And weirdly, half the people answered fibrolamellar HCC, and I don't know why they did that, because just the age tells you it's not that, right? I mean, fibrolamellar HCC is a young adult tumor. It's not a 60-year-old or 50-year-old tumor. So if it cannot happen at that age, okay? So it's a young adult tumor. 20 years, 30 years, even for 10 years above, it's fine. So you'll generally see it in that age group. AFP levels will usually be normal, right? So the main thing is there's a central scar in fibrolaminar HCC, right? Um, and the central scar will often have calcific mass, which is heterogeneous with a central scar in an adolescent. And if there's calcification in the scar, then it's a pathognomic feature, right? So then it's definitely fibrolaminar, nothing else. Okay, calcification you might not see all the time. Okay, if you don't see but you still see scar, then there are two things, right? You always think of FNH and fibrolaminar. And the classic, everyone must be knowing this, right? Is that the central scar in fibrolaminar is T2 dark, while in uh, your FNH it is T2 bright, right? So the vascular scar in FNH, so it's T2 bright. Here it's a fibrous scar, so it's T2 dark. So supposedly that helps. If you have any doubt, just biopsy, right? You cannot let the fibrolaminar go. So I would, especially if it's a large mass, then it's more likely to be a fibrolaminar HCC. So it's more of a diagnosis of age, presence of scar, presence of calcification. And if you have any doubt, just biopsy it. Okay, don't leave it. Okay, yeah. Like other HCCs, it will be hypervascular, but it may not always wash out. Okay, so the enhancement characteristic is not the classic thing. The classic thing is the scar and the calcification. Remember that. Okay, yeah, this we already said, right? So here's an example of a scar, right? So the T2 dark scar is there. Rest of the tumor is sort of T2 bright, but you see this dark scar. So that's classic of fibrolaminar HCC. Okay, Mets. Also, they can be solitary, they can be multiple. If they're multiple, it becomes easier for us to say, okay, this is a metastatic tumor. They can be variable appearance, right? So it's very difficult for us to really characterize Mets apart from certain things. So if they're hypervascular Mets, then you have some list of differentials, right? So neuroendocrine tumors, RCC, thyroid are usually hypervascular, but others can also be hypervascular. So it's not a 100% given. Okay. The important thing is they don't retain contrast on delayed, right? So even a neuroendocrine tumor, it will not retain contrast on delay like a hemangioma. So that way you can differentiate a hypervascular Met from a hemangioma. Okay. Another thing with neuroendocrine tumor is it generally grows slowly, right? Neuroendocrine is not going to kill a patient very fast. It's generally a slowly growing tumor. So generally neuroendocrine tumors, if it's a hypervascular Met, you will also see hepatomegaly. Okay, well, diffuse liver involvement, but the liver get enlarged because it has time to compensate hypertrophy so that the hepatic function remains stable. Okay, versus a RCC, thyroid, other Mets, they grow much faster, so there won't be hepatomegaly. Okay, so if you see liver which is studded with Mets, so this is usually more true when there's a lot of Mets. If it's 1 or 2 Mets, it's not enough. But if you see a liver which is studded with Mets, okay, if you see a liver studded with Mets, so generally my ballpark is more than 50% liver looks involved with Mets. LFTs must be abnormal. They have to be abnormal. The only exception is NET. If you see a diffusely metastatic tumor in the liver and liver function is still normal, it is NET. If the liver function is abnormal, it's not NET. That can be something else. It can be adenocMS or whatever. So that's a good way to remember or suspect NETs. Okay. Yeah, and as I said, if it's metastatic tumor, if you don't see a primary, then IHCC, you saw that image, right? It can look like a metastatic, or even multifocal HCC can look like that, right? So those are differentials. Okay, and generally you will have to biopsy it, right? You don't think of following up. Generally, it's just biopsy. Okay, so these I haven't discussed, right? So abscess, generally the main thing is history. So often you will get this thing: is it abscess or is it metastasis from a some pancreatic or biliary tumor, right? Like there's IHBRD. And we cannot differentiate. Okay, the only way you differentiate is you look at history of fever and look at the leukocyte count. So whenever you get that, I just ask you guys only, right? Is there fever and what's the leukocyte count? If it is high, then we know it is most likely. Then we say it's an abscess, right? And otherwise, it's more likely to be metastatic, right? So that's the only way you can differentiate. You can put a probe, obviously. So if you put a probe and you can see liquefaction, then you know it's an abscess. But otherwise, very difficult. Hydatid is too classic, so I haven't covered it. This is a nice entity, so we'll see a case of this, okay, later. I think next week we can do that. I don't have the number right now with me. Did you see this case, visceral larva migrans? Some of you have seen it, right? It's a very classic looking thing. Once you have seen it once, but it's very difficult to describe. But you know what is visceral larva migrans? It's a sort of a parasitic infection. So generally you see a tract, okay? You see a tract along the liver and some weird sort of enhancement pattern. I'll show you a case. It's very classic once you see the case, okay? I think I diagnosed one a couple of months ago. Okay, cystic neoplasms we'll cover in the biliary sort of session. Okay, but this is what it is: biliary cystadenoma. Cystic metastasis I have seen the most commonly in neuroendocrine and gynae. These are the two common cystic metastases I have seen. But again, ऐसा नहीं है, it can happen from anywhere. There are certain uncommon tumors, so these I haven't really talked about. So this, I'll send you an article, just read it, okay? But epithelial hemangioendothelioma is basically like a hemangioma. Okay, so you will see sort of a hemangiomatous pattern of centripetal enhancement. Okay, the difference is it's scarring, so there will be capsular retraction. Okay, and often multiple lesions which are subcapsular in location with capsular retraction. That's a classic thing. So this again, I'll send you the article. Okay, I haven't put it because I didn't see a case in Tata which was very classic. I'll send you an article. Hepatoblastoma and embryonal sarcoma we'll see in the peels. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So generally, basically, your differentials or approach basically depends on whether it's a normal liver or it's a cirrhotic liver, right? So normal liver will have a different set of differentials. Cirrhotic liver will generally have a different set of differentials, and these will become higher up in the differential list, right? So first thing you have to always figure out, is it a cirrhotic or non-cirrhotic? So whenever liver lesion comes, you look at evidence for cirrhosis, but you also look at hepatitis profile, right? So you have to see FBB positive HECA, okay? That is important. There are some guidelines by ACR on how to manage incidentalomas, meaning a normal patient, right? Not something you see in Tata, but outside, normal patient. They say there's low risk or a high risk. So low risk is no known malignancy, no hepatic dysfunction, no risk factors, right? No hepatitis, alcoholism, NASH, etc. Versus a high risk patient. So that's a known malignancy, right? Or cirrhosis. Okay. So in a low risk patient, generally, if you see anything less than a centimeter, you don't really worry about it, right? So anything sub centimeter, our TSTCs basically, in a low risk patient without history of malignancy, are benign. We don't even require a follow up, and that is given by guidelines. So you're very safe in saying, don't worry, don't follow it up. Generally, I would just put it in the body of the report and leave it there. I won't put it in the impression. It just scares everyone. Okay, because our group is high risk patient, then we would generally put it in the impression. We say it's TSTC. America just thinks of MRI, doesn't think of anything else. So they recommend this, but don't recommend an MRI for TSTCs. Okay, just say Bear is watching on the next follow-up. The patient will keep getting scans, right, in our center. So generally that's all, unless it will going to change management. That's the only time when they might think of doing an ultrasound or a sampling. Okay. 1 to 1.5 centimeter, again, if it's benign looking, no features, no follow-up, suspicious imaging features, then certainly you will need to evaluate, right? So again, it's America, so they say do an MRI. We can think of doing an ultrasound and biopsy or an MRI. Flash filling features, then in a low risk, again, don't worry. High risk patient, then again, you need to evaluate it, okay? And so these are, it's impossible to remember them. But the main point is that sub-centimeter lesions in a normal patient, don't worry about it. Don't chase it, okay? That's the main point of this. Right, so how do we approach diagnosis? History is very important, right? So age is important, obviously. In middle age, it's more likely benign, right? Old age is more likely malignant. FNH hemangioma and adenoma mainly females, right? So 90% of them happen in females, right? So that's one thing to remember. As I said, this is important, right? We have to have this history, right? I mean, you don't see a lot of PSC here. Outside, you will see a few. But all this history you need to know. The unique history of colonic liver disease, the approach and differentials change. Fever, you need to know. If it's a lady, you need to know about OCUs, okay? If you think of adenomas. And history of malignancy. So these are all histories which you need to know, and you always have to ask for prior imaging, right? So these are all things most of you know and you do follow properly. Okay, but still it's a very irritating and long list of differentials. So I generally don't try to go for diagnosis. Okay, so main thing is are they don't touch me lesions? So you sort of classify them into 3 types. Are they benign? Don't touch me. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what it is, but don't worry about it. Okay, is that something which needs some sort of further evaluation, biopsy or further imaging? And are they just suspicious for malignancy? Like they're definitely malignant or almost certainly malignant, right? So these are the 3 buckets you have to try and put the lesions in, okay? So how do you do that? Obviously, we talked about, right? The sub-centimeter are fine. Even in cancer patients, most of the TSTCs are benign, right? So we really don't focus too much on them. Even the surgeons know it. So gastric cancer, and I say there's a 4 millimeter TSTC, they will not generally ask for a ultrasound and FN and all of that. They'll be like, okay, fine, we'll go ahead and treat, okay? Unless there is some worrisome feature that we say, yaar, ye thoda ajeeb lag raha hai. That's the only time when they'll really chase it. Okay, you'll have to look at the enhancement pattern. So I generally call it like at the classic hemangioma pattern, rim enhancement, mild diffuse, marked diffuse. So these are the sort of 4 patterns. And then you look at the delayed phase to look for, washout or filling in or whatever. Okay. And hepatobiliary phase sometimes helps. Okay. So, and then some other features. You look for scar, retraction, dilation, biliary dilation, fat, etc. Right. So if it's peripheral discontinuous enhancement, there's only one differential. It's hemangioma. That's it. So that's the straightforward one. Rim enhancement, there are many differentials. The MET becomes an abscess. I think these two become the highest ones. Okay. Other malignancies, as I said, IHCC can have it. Hemangioma can rarely have rim enhancement, right? So that article I shared on the group yesterday, you will see some examples of that. Okay. FNH adenoma, I would say very uncommonly to have rim enhancement, but it's there in the list. Like it's very low down in the list, but it's there in the list. So if it's otherwise normal lady on OCs and then you see this, then it could actually be an adenoma, right? So you have to just remember these differences. Then diffuse enhancement, it can be mild, right? If it's mild diffuse, then it's more likely adenoma or some sort of atypical hemangioma or hypervascular metastasis, okay? But if it's a marked diffuse, then FNH becomes sort of the topmost thing, right? So in marked diffuse enhancement, you think of FNH. Okay, it can still be the others. So in a sense, once it's diffuse, mild or marked enhancement, the differentials remain the same. It's just that adenoma versus FNH, what goes up, what comes down. Hypervascular mets remains in the differential, but you look for lesions elsewhere, and often you should be able to figure out it's not that. Okay. Yeah. So all of this, then what you can do further is you can think of looking. So history, of course, to rule out adenoma. Hepatobiliary phase you can think of doing if you think of FNH, right? If you're not sure, you can think of doing that, and look at other sequences to really figure out what it is. Okay. But all of this is great in theory, often still doesn't work, right? I mean, we still don't know many times. And then you just have to biopsy, right? Instead of chasing lesions and अरे इसका MR करते हैं, इसका फलाना ढिकाना करते हैं, often just biopsy it, and that's a one-stop shot is what I would say. Okay, so what you need to remember is most incidental lesions are benign. So when you go out, don't think of malignancy all the time. Analyze the lesions using your CT, ultrasound, MRI. Recommend follow-up and MRI or biopsy when in doubt. Okay, so the main thing I think liver you have to know what to recommend when. Okay, when to recommend don't worry, when to recommend do something, and then what to do. Okay.